and welcome to the O'Connor Event Team's three-part series on basic horsemanship and its applications.
We'd really like to thank State Line Tech for their main title sponsor, and we'd also like to thank Strongid Ed Lengid for helping us put this series together.
You know, Karen and I are really excited about bringing you this three-part series, and we are sure that you're going to enjoy watching and learning some of the techniques that we've developed over the years that have brought us great successes and a tremendous amount of enjoyment in our horse world. Don't worry about that if he stumbles like that. Just go on. Straight line, straight line, straight line. Very good. Excellent. We'll try to land a little bit more with him, huh?
Get your lead. Well done, well done. Nice tight turn, very good. Coming straight out of the turn and forward out of the turn. Good. Lovely. Change your lead before you turn there. Press him.
Go on, Will. Go on. Don't let him change your speed on you. All right, keep it all the same. Keep it the same. Keep it the same. Kind of get that feeling he slows down a little bit there in the air. Yeah? Land and press him off away from the fence.
Try to keep him round. Work away at the quality of your canter. Leg at the girth. Okay, well done, Heidi. Thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, it was good. So here we are. Now we're going to apply the things that we've done in the last two videos about your horsemanship, you're noticing what happens underneath you, and the techniques that we learned there, and now we're going to apply them into jumping.
The two things that we keep saying over and over again, which is so critical to being able to communicate with the horse, is both the direction, which is number one, and speed, which is number two. When you're jumping, that whole obligation by the rider does not just start and end before you've jumped the fence. It continues on through the takeoff, in the air, through the landing, and then on the getaway part of the jumping effort.
You always have to realize that whatever you do with horses, it's a game of reactions. And so set the things that you know how to do. Set the line that you want to be on, set the speed that you want to be on, and if any part of that changes, you have to react. This is a game of instincts. You're to be the leader, you're to dictate what goes on, this is what I want, and if the horse thinks something else, you have to react. That moment is always going to be yours. Nobody's going to help you with it. We can tell you that it happened, we can tell you that it did happen, we can tell you missed it, but that moment is always yours. And so we're going to go off here and just jump these two fences. And first, we're going to show about our position. Remember in the flat work, we talked about how we talk to horses. It's very important with the jumping that your position is always in the right place, again, for that moment of reaction that you can do something.
Do you want to show them a little bit about position just standing still here?
Yeah.
We try not to be ahead of the motion in the jumping effort. We try not to be behind the motion. And both David and I are pretty good at being in the wrong place along the way and learning how to be in the right place. So if I was to be ahead of the motion over the jump, and I think most of us have felt this before, I would be reaching my body up over the horse like this. Whoa! Now even the horse puts his neck down because he's reacting to where my weight has just gone. If we do that, that's a very vulnerable position for the rider to be in because we've lost our lower leg and I've thrown my weight ahead of the motion.
And even if you're in a place where you're going to be able to survive it, you're not going to fall off. it's really important that when you're in that position, you can't do anything. You can't steer, you can't stop, you can't go faster because you're just trying to get back into the saddle. So it's really important that you keep your leg underneath you so that at any time we're going to feel like we're always going to land on our feet if we jumped off the horse.
So then the other extreme would be to be behind the motion, and I think we've all felt that. One thing we do is we lose our balance. As the horse is going into the future, we're protecting the past, and that makes us end up in the back seat, right? And we've all knows this feeling, right? Like this, or even with my leg back, and the horse backs up because he feels my weight go back there. The other thing that's interesting is he raises his head. As soon as the horse raises his head and is unable to use his neck when he jumps, it makes the hind end slow down and react in a very sudden way. It drops the hind end right out from under the horse, and that's when you start having back rails at the very least.
We always want a horse to be able to jump where you feel like he's in this type of position. Well, that is the withers coming up this way. And if you're here, it has a tendency to make horses jump that way. And horses really can't jump that way. It's very uncomfortable and even painful in a lot of ways. So what is the position? We really talk about trying to be in the center of your horse. So if we're in the center, we actually want to be in this position, and then if we want to jump, we want to be here.
So he's closing the angles and lowering his center of gravity, but in no way does the horse get the message to accelerate or slow down. He's closing his body down on the horse. Hey.
Two horses that are going to help us today are Karen's on Behringer, who is owned by some friends of ours called the Thompsons, who have been longtime supporters of ours. He has done a couple little intermediate events and is a really kind of one of our rising stars. The horse that I'm on is a little bit younger. His name is Telluride. He's owned by some good friends called the Gunnels. They live here in town. And he has only been eventing now for about a month. He's done 4 competitions at our novice and training level. So he's a young horse just learning, but we've got great hopes about him. So when we talk about this position again, we want to talk about being close. So if we're being close, if we get close to the horse, our butt has to slide back, and that's how we get close to the horse there, instead of being in a situation where I change the center of gravity, because that's going to make a big difference.
I also always think about where my foot comes into contact with my stirrup iron. I want it flat across my stirrup iron so that the back edge of my toe feels the back edge of the stirrup iron. If I fall onto the front edge of my stirrup iron, I immediately lose my lower leg. So all the way to the jump, at the takeoff, and in the air, if you just think about feeling the back edge of your stirrup iron, you'll be in a much safer position to be able to communicate well with the horse.
Only one more thing that we're going to talk about, and that's our hands. What do our hands do when the horse is in the motion? Our hands should always be about in this position. A lot of people ride way too short, okay, and they get their hands up here. That's going to pull them forward. Or they ride too long, too defensive, and that's going to make you do that. So our hands want to be basically in this area that's right in the crook of between the withers and the neck here. That's where our hands want to rest. The most important thing that we want to talk about with our hands is relaxation, funny enough. If you're relaxed in your shoulders, you're relaxed in your elbows, your hands will follow the horse's motion as I can either come below on each side of the neck, or they can stay up on top, okay? You don't want to rest your hands down on the neck so much, but if your arms are relaxed and your fingers are relaxed, yep, they will follow the motion to whatever the horse wants.
I always think of the learning process has to be fun for everybody, and it's got to be a game. And one of the games I play with myself to challenge myself is I think of a dinner plate sitting on top of my horse's withers. And I like to try to jump my horses so that I can work away in an area no bigger than that dinner plate. If I've had to come off the dinner plate to make a reaction to the horse, then I've waited much too long to be able to give that aid. I need to give a small aid, subtle aid, that's very often, rather than waiting until the situation's out of my control and I've got to come off my dinner plate to make a big reaction.
Only one more thing that we're going to talk about is what do we do in between our fences. And really we use 3 positions. One is out of the saddle, almost in a galloping position. The second one is a position that's a little closer. When we go closer, don't open up your body angle. Feel like you just settle down into the saddle that way. And then your third position is actually sitting down into the saddle. When you have shorter stirrups to jump, make sure that you don't sit vertical like you'd sit in the dressage or sit in the flat work. You want to feel like you incline your body forward, just a couple degrees there, 15, 20 degrees if you want to be technical, so that you incline your upper body forward, and that encourages the horses in shorter stirrups to be able to go on.
There's really only three things going on here when we jump horses. The horses are cantering between the fences. Then the rider has to prepare the horse for the jump. And then the rider has to, with the horse, execute the jump. That's why there are three positions. That's why we have to be very good at getting from one position to the other. And it's remarkable, really, how quickly the horses respond. When you start to change your position, the horse is halfway there for you because he's got that memory.
Okay, should we show it? We're going to jump a couple
try to
fences
show
here
it.
with Tully and kind of show our position. Remember the first two priorities of riding. Directions number 1, speeds number 2. Come on, Tully man. Now using that position a little bit out of the saddle. Straight line. Good jump. And now as I jump a fence with a little bit of spread, I'm going to come a little bit more forward, try to keep the speed, soften the reins, watch, and have a good jump like that.
Makes for a nice jump. I'm very crooked on the other side. I'm going to reestablish my canter, have my horse balanced out of the turn, and straight, and makes a much nicer jump than the first jump.
One thing I want to talk a little bit about as we go ahead and jump here. So many people worry about going to the fence, and they worry about going to the fence, and they worry about going over the fence. And when they land, they forget what they're doing. And so you teach your horse to land and kind of shut off. It's important that when we land, we're still reacting to what went on. Is my speed the same? Is the line the same? And don't think about doing something else until you're 5 or 6 strides on the other side of the fence. The way that you jump is going to relate to the way you land. Really, a lot of people that we see all over the world forget about that when they land, they're still working. And so have it in your mind, land and work. That's going to be a big deal as we go ahead with our next type of exercises. So the first exercise, we worked on direction, keeping one direction and keeping one speed. We did it on a straight line, and then we kept one speed coming back to the oxer. The next exercise that we're going to practice as the next step is to take a direction and start to put bends in it and have bending lines. But we're going to keep the same speed all the way through the exercise. So we're looking for that reaction. Does the speed stay the same? But we're going to start to take the direction and see if we can hold one line through some bends and some turns.
We're going to get some help from some of our riders this morning, and what we want you to look for is that the rider approaches the jump, each of the 3 jumps, perpendicular to the face of the fence, so that the horse has to turn from the beginning of the jump till the ending of the jump. Watch the rider's eyes. This is Clark Montgomery. He's been working with us for a long time. This is his 8-year-old intermediate horse. His eyes are great there. Looking, eyes were just a little late that time. We have an exercise at the end where they're to drop their stirrups and make a turn. And then I want to see a transition much like you would hope to have in the dressage arena, with the horse's back soft and releasing and being able to still control the speed and the direction right to the end.
Our next student is Amy on another intermediate horse that she's got. She's done a 2-star, and so she's got quite a lot of experience. Very good approach, quite close, but she waits it out. That's really important, not to get anxious in a moment. We're not talking about placing our horses yet. And again, very close, waiting it out, and hopefully his next time that he would do that is that he would be a little sharper for that. But again, we don't want to talk yet, quite yet, about placing our horses in a place. We're talking about direction, we're talking about speed.
Good job. Our next rider is Will Faudree. He's from West Texas, out in Midland. He's just come east to Virginia here to train with David and I in his final preparations before the Young Riders Championship. This is a preliminary level horse, and he's got a great stride to the first fence, puts his eye on the second fence as he's jumping, puts his eye on the third fence, and steers the horse without interfering with the horse's jump. Good use of the horse's head and neck, stayed in one lovely rhythm all the way through. The horse clearly understands what it's supposed to do because there's such a direct line of communication between the rider and the horse. That was really nice there, Will.
The positions that we're using in between the fences, you see that everybody's kind of sitting down for right now. A lot of that has to do because these turns are so small. These are quite tight turns, so we're going to use more of this position. If the turns were more open, we would be a little bit more out of the saddle. This is Heidi riding a horse called Okatia, who's done it 2 stars. She's getting also ready for our Young Rider Championships. You see her position's a little farther forward, and I'd like to see that she wouldn't quite lay quite so flat over top of the fences, but that she'd be a little bit more upright. This is a very high-headed horse, and so she continually wants to try to work him round so that he uses his body better over the fence. Remember, Heidi, that when he does go round, right, to soften the reins is a reward, right? If there's no reward, there's no reason to put him down there. So all the time, remember that you want to ask whatever exercise you want, that when the horse does it, you give and you soften, whether it's your leg, your weight, your reins, when they answer you to soften, so then again, there's a reward for the situation.
These riders make it look pretty easy, but they've been working many endless hours to try to be able to create a feeling and then to be able to recreate it. If they get a whole lot better, David, we'll be out of a job.
I know, I'm getting a little worried. Now we're about to do the exercise, and I hope that we can do it as well.
Oh my God.
Come on, Tully.
A little bit see the difference in the horse's look to the jump between the more experienced horses that the students were riding and this very green horse that David's riding. That's only been competing for a month now.
And I wouldn't worry so much at this stage with this young of a horse whether he cross canters quite on this small of a turn or even gets on the wrong lead. If we can fix it on the way, fine, but I wouldn't stop and then correct it. Karen's horse has got a bit more experience as an intermediate horse. And he's just starting to come back into the work and is really quite well. Now I'm going to try something here, is that he cross-cantered and didn't have his feet quite right on the first time. Let's see if he does it better the second time on this type of exercise. It's again a young horse, and I want him to teach himself a lot instead of me dictating. I'm going to dictate line. I'm going to dictate speed and see if he dictates his feet. Very good.
That was a huge improvement, David.
That was much better. And you see, by doing the same exercise again, he solves his problem. Didn't really try to ride it any different. He solves his own problem, gets his feet in place, and the jumps are going to be better.
David, I thought the balance was so much better that time. You know, the first time he looked a little bit like he was on skates. But then in comparison, the second time, gosh, he looked like he had a leg at each corner.
Yeah, I thought he taught himself quite well. And that's an important point of everything that we're going to do. When we watch riders kind of all over the world and all over the country ride, when things go wrong, all of their riding, everything that we've talked about in these last 2 episodes about your horsemanship, about pressure, about taking off pressure, about your position, how to talk, what to do, goes flying out the window. You want to make sure that any time that you're jumping, that you can control the things that you can control. Do the things you already know how to do and then apply it to fences. Don't make this complicated. It's not. Go down one line, keep the speed. The horse is going to look at his fence and adjust himself, and you're to react to what he is thinking. So again, everything that we're doing, round pen, it's all the same thing. React to what the horse is doing, tell him what to do. That's the important part about jumping. So the next exercise, what do we do now?
Well, I think now we really want to try to take what we call a related distance, which is 2 jumps in a straight line, and see if we can show you how the horse can have a very big stride between the jumps, taking a few number of strides, and in balance jump that jump well, and by contrast take another horse and do lots and lots of strides in between the 2 jumps, keeping a same type of balance.
So the progression that we went down, kept one direction, one speed. Then we start to change the direction with turns. Now we're going to go back to a straight line on one direction and just change the speed. We're going to work on different speeds of jumping fences now. So it's all a progression of what we're going to do. And we're going to get the help from our guys here and go on down. Heidi, you want to do it first? This is set at 72 feet, which is a normal kind of outside flowing 5 stride. So Heidi's going to do it in 5. Okay, Heidi, go ahead. Jump the vertical first, so jump the blue and then to the green, and do that in a 5 stride. So that's quite open, quite forward, right? Go on. That's it. Anytime that you want to jump a fence, establish your speed early. And so that 10 strides before the fence, you're at the speed you want to go. You jump the fence at that speed. You land at that speed. And you go away 4 on that speed. So Heidi, how many strides did you get?
5.
Good. So Amy, you're going to do 6. So Amy's going to pick a little bit of a different speed.
Amy's got to have her horse on just the right length of stride and try to maintain it through the whole thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I actually like the 6 stride that Amy did better than the 5 stride that Heidi did, because I thought Heidi left it a little bit late to assure the horse the right communication to get the 5 evenly.
And Clark's going to go in 7 strides now. And this is a really good exercise for you to get used to. Count out loud to yourself so that you know over and over and over again where you are.
Like Clark's going to count out loud. 2, 3, 4. There we are.
Very good. And that is an exercise that's great. You can do it with 2 rails on the ground. You can do it with fences. But the count out loud. The point that we're doing is that not so many feet equals so many strides, but can I control between 2 fences a number of different speeds so that I can have an effect on what's going on?
Now we have Will again, and Will's going to do it in 8 strides. And we're counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Will's going to do that again for us. And what I want to show here is the contrast. Go again, Will. I want him to get the 8 strides again, only to be better at this job, Will needs to make a bigger adjustment early in the line so the horse has more power at the end. That was an example of the horse losing power as he got closer to the second jump. In the 8 again. Collect. And we like that a whole lot better because he was able to push the horse at the end to the base of the jump rather than using his hands to make sure that the horse got that final stride. That's key when you're doing related distances and trying to collect the horse for an extra number of strides.
And between that time and the last time, you see that 8 strides, the speed was the same all the way, again, to make it real simple. And the other time, he had to adjust way right at the end, so his last stride was the shortest. And those are the things that you want to notice so that you can react to it. Okay, should we try it?
Sure, what are we going to do?
I think we ought to see if we can do 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Oh,
we'll
right.
Make little half circles.
Okay, so David's going to try to do it on 5 on this green horse. That's asking a big question because he has to have quite a lot of pace, but at the same time he has to help the horse stay on its feet. Oh, he just got it done. Just got it done. Now he's going to collect the horse a bit, and it'll be a much more comfortable 6 for this horse.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Now he's going to work away on this half circle to collect the horse further and slow the speed down so he can now do 7. Let's see if he can get this done. We'll count with him. Land.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
The horse is getting so reactive that he actually reacted quite sensitively to collecting and almost ended up long. Now let's see him collect further and do the 8. Land.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very good.
I thought for the horse and for his level of experience, he enjoyed the 8 the most. So as a trainer, David will want to use the horse's canter in the lengthening way to give that horse more options when he takes him to competition. We don't want to limit the horse to being able to only have his stride slightly adjustable. In the end, we want him to be trained so that they can use a large range of motion to be able to answer the questions of balance and speed and direction.
So if you take this exercise apart, we're really applying what we did on the flat of lengthening and shortening the canter and then applying it to jumps. These are all the tools that we need to make jumping really easy. So then as our final exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to combine the two. See if we can change the speed and the line and go from there. Should we go?
Should we go?
That was good there, huh?
Yeah.
So now we take the next step. Now we're going to work on two things. Can we change the direction and can we change the speed? Now with this little exercise, we practice this exercise a lot. It never has to be very big. It's always kind of at the 2-foot level. The number of feet, you have 32 feet between one side and you have 41 feet going to the other side. And we're going to do it in 2 strides and 3 strides and then do it in 3 strides and then 4 strides. And I'm looking now to land and start to teach the horses to turn. So see if we can get leads, even if they get the wrong lead, to maybe have a trot, pick up the canter so that they start to teach themselves how to use their feet.
You know, the fascinating thing about this exercise is that as the horse develops that canter that you want, that really slow canter, the feeling the rider wants to have in the end is that the horse maintains a light contact. Not that the horse is being held into a slow canter, but that he actually is holding himself in the canter, and whether you have contact or not really doesn't enter into it at the end. That's the kind of feeling we're looking for, and hopefully we'll be able to demonstrate that with these 2 horses.
Don't get stuck that it has to be exactly 32 feet. At the beginning, it can be a little bit longer. If you need to use 34 feet or 35 feet to have 3 strides, and then use 44 or 45 or 46 feet, don't get your horse locked into this canter. Teach him that one. What he can do on the flat, teach it here. It's the same, has to be the same relationship.
We give you the ideas, and then we're only limited by our own creativity. So as the rider, you also become your own trainer, and you can be flexible in that distance to be able to make this work for your horse.
So with a young horse here, Tully, again, who has only done 4 events in his life and has basically done some novice and training events here in the United States, I'm going to come across here and do this in 2 strides and then 3 strides to make it easier for him, and then see if we can teach him another canter. Again, now starting to not only work at different speeds, but also starting to teach him to use his feet on the turns. He missed that turn there. That's fine. He'll get it the next time. And wait. Good. 3 strides. Gets the turn. Excellent. Now I'll see if I can get the 4th stride. I work on the collected canter now. Work on the collected canter. Move, 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 move. 1, 2, 3, and turn. That's it. We'll try it one more time. See if I can get the turn.
You notice when he's trying to add the stride, he's also looking for a very close takeoff spot so that the horse doesn't jump away from him and land running and land too far into the distance, gaining speed. He wants to be deep in the distance and stay at the speed. Nice close spot there. And he made an extra correction there at the end because the horse was just a little bit big in his canter jumping in, wasn't he?
And that type of communication is what we're looking for. I'm more interested in the communication here and see if I can come down here, just make it the same speed, be able to adjust, be able to get a turn, be able to have him handy and adjustable.
Over just a little small fence and a small exercise like this, it's remarkable how much education the horse can go through by just going through this step-by-step program.
And these fences don't have to be very big, so you can do it a lot. You can do this every other day for a little while until you feel like you have a hold of it and you feel like it's really teaching you something. Now the next part we're going to do is we're going to go out into the cross country, and we're going to use the same type of exercises, the same communication, the same way we're talking to the horses, and now apply that out in the cross country, which means different terrain and water and ditches and banks, and see if we can apply the same thing. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun, and I'd like to always sort of think when I go out onto the cross country that I've already asked and answered the questions here in the arena with jumps that are forgiving and knocked down, and that the horse can then go out onto the cross country and use the same tools to be able to get the same answer.
All right, so let's go.
Join you out there.
Before we start the cross-country section, Karen and I want to get it across an idea. To do something in a video, we really can't show everything that we want to do. So all of these exercises, we could start at a much lower level. Whether we're out in here on the cross-country or we're doing the show jumping, we might not necessarily start at the level of what you've seen. Obviously, with younger horses and more inexperienced riders, we would start an exercise at a much lower level.
But to keep the time frame down and to be able to show you as much as possible in a lot of different kinds of exercises, we're going to pick up where the program is sort of in the middle or almost towards the end of the goal of what you're trying to teach the horse. So keep in mind that all of these exercises can be taken back down to their very basic level in terms of being able to control the direction and control the speed. We're going to show you things like being able to jump a narrow panel out here on the cross-country course. It's only going to be 5 foot across the front face of it, but you can start it at 10 feet across the face of the exercise and then work your way down to what will ultimately be a narrow panel. And that's what we're going to show you today.
We want to reiterate that in any time with all of the jumping is try to control the things that you can control and to try to make what seems like complicated issues, try to make it simple. That's the big deal. We want you to understand and feel comfortable with it, but we also want our horses to understand. That, to me, is the ultimate goal of what we want to do, is to have the horses understand that whatever exercise you're going to do, that they can solve it.
Remember also that when you're trying to teach a horse something, sometimes we know everything that that horse has been through in its life, but many times we don't. We may acquire that horse in the middle of its lifetime. So we have to assume that the horse doesn't know as much as you think it might know, and really with even the medium level horse, start at the beginning and quite quickly repeat all of what he does know so that you very quickly get into the things that are new for him and for you.
That's right. So all of these exercises we're going to show you are things that you can attain. You ready?
We've got to get our britches on and we'll go out there and do it.
Let's go.
Okay.
Now we're having some fun. Now we're really taking the next stage of what jumping is and all of the communication that we've done so far. We're out here on the cross-country field. We call this cross-country field our playground because that's exactly what we feel it is. You have to remember with cross-country, it's not anything different. It is just you have to apply the same things, the same applications that we've been doing for the last 3 parts in the series, the same feel, the same reactions. The only thing that you might want to talk about is a little bit the different positions we might use.
Well, really, in cross-country riding, as is true with everything else that has to do with jumping, there are 3 basic things going on. The horse gallops from jump to jump. But at some point, as you start to approach the jump, there is an area which takes preparation from the rider. Once that preparation is created with the rider, and that is clearly creating the direction to the jump, the speed for which that jump is going to be jumped, the balance and the rhythm, then the rider negotiates the jump. And that negotiation is a monitoring system by the rider to the horse to make sure all those things you've created continue straight through to the takeoff up into the air and then on the landing and galloping back away.
So the different positions that we talk about is 1, the galloping position, and you want to be out of the saddle. Try to be straight there. The second is a balance position where you end up bringing your shoulders back a little bit. You feel like your butt goes to the back of the saddle but without sitting down. That balance position is about 7 or 8 strides away from the fence, or kind of that 70, 80 feet away from the fence. You want to change clearly from your galloping position to your balance position. Then jumping position is a lot like the show jumping, where you want to feel, instead of going like this or like that, is that you want to feel like you get closer to him. Keep your leg out in front of you, slide your butt in the back of the saddle and get closer to your horse this way. Your hand motion is even less because the horse doesn't quite use himself all the way like he does in the show jumping.
I would say in terms of the hands, again, we keep them right there on the plate, and I try to keep my hands in an area where the neck doesn't move a lot. You know, the skin is attached to the bone there, so there's very little change in the horse's use of his head and neck if you keep your hands here. So what we do instead, because we certainly don't want to limit what the horse can do with his neck, we'll open our fingers at the takeoff and allow the reins to slip. That way I'm not in any way compromising my position to what the horse needs to do to be able to use himself at the fence. I think that's very important when you start to enter in changes of terrain, up and down hills, and the other elements that make cross-country riding so much fun.
So let's go out and apply these same techniques that we've been practicing. Direction, speed, and use of our position, and let's go do some different exercises out on the cross country. Here we are at an exercise that really is all about terrain, and can we keep the things that we've been talking about? Direction and speed, but now we're going to change the angle of the ground that we're going to work on. So we're going to need to be a little bit in a different position to be able to get that done.
There's three things I think to consider. You've got your hip, and that hip has to bend according to what the horse is doing, according to where the horse is at that moment. You also have your lower leg. It's going to be difficult to bend your hip unless you feel secure at the bottom of your irons, like you have a good anchor. So we like to keep our lower leg right at the girth or slightly in front of the girth for this type of exercise so that no one can see my girth. The third thing are my hands. Without the use of that horse's head and neck, he'll find it very difficult to get his body up the steps to be able to jump clean and easy.
You want to think that as a horse is on level ground, he's working in this kind of attitude. As he starts to go downhill, he starts to get like this. Where does my body have to be in order to stay in control? Well, it's got to be here, and that's what Karen's talking about, is about trying to get up a little bit more with the shoulders and allow your hip to keep moving so you end up more in this position as a horse kind of moves up and down his terrain. Karen, you want to show it?
I'll try.
So what I want you to do is look at her reaction from one fence to another as she's coming down the hill, where her position is, and how she reacts going back up the hill. So we put both things together. Normally, if we were going to take this apart, we would take each individual part of this as an individual exercise before we put it together. You see her react up the hill, keep the speed the same, direction, and see how she's quite forward going up the hill, and she kind of settled back coming down the hill. That's the important part of the exercise. So why don't we have our students come down here and try the same exercise and see if they can make it look as good as Karen.
Ooh, that was fun.
Go ahead, Clark.
Boy.
So as we watch Clark come down the hill, watch his hip move and stay behind the motion, but he keeps moving as the horse has to settle down the hill. Then react to his line. Keep the speed, keep the speed. That's okay. Young horses a lot of times will make a mistake like that, and as they come up a hill, as long as you're in the right place, they'll put his feet down. He will have learned a big lesson from that, and the next time come even better.
She's coming forward out of her turn and has to get forward to the first step and then quiet her speed down. That was good, very good. Great, Amy, good use of your hands up that bank.
So now you're changing your position to be able to keep your communication the same. There, maybe Will didn't slip his reins enough and you see him get pulled forward down the hill. And he's going to be caught here. See, all his reactions are late, and that's why he's in a suddenly and he's kind of in a lot of trouble. And then doesn't make the last fence. So Will, you've got to be able to slip your reins and get going somewhere, right? React to the situation. You're not reacting to what the horse is thinking. You're reacting to your little individual moments of what you think is going wrong. React to what the horse is thinking. And Will, come right back and do it again.
It's a better start right there, isn't it?
There we go. Look at your line. Go to the line. Go. Better.
All right.
Better. But again, I'd like to see him react to the horse a little quicker so he feels that coming.
He uses his hands also a little bit too strong to turn the horse, so the horse doesn't focus on what's ahead of him. Let's see if Heidi can do a bit better. Looking straight, keeping the tempo. Pretty good. I'd like to see her take the dip out of her back, don't you think?
There's no question. I think she gets too much and then gets too far forward there. And you see a lot of times she lands, there's actually a moment of like that.
Of collapsing.
And that's a moment, basically, that where she's not in communication with her horses.
And I think that encourages that horse to hollow his back and get that even higher head carriage.
Exactly. Well, let's try to do it the other way. Let's try if we can come downhill. Maybe I'll try to go down the hill, do the 2 banks, and see if we can watch, again, the position as we go in so that we can keep our communication.
So there's a lot of motion in the hip, following the terrain. The hands are very still. There's not a lot of motion of the hands. Even there, he follows the mouth but doesn't pull back to take the horse's neck away. Let's go ahead, Clark, with your horse. Again, the tempo has to stay the same so that the horse has the time to work in that rhythm, and the speed and the direction stays the same throughout the whole exercise. Think of the direction, so you're looking at the vertical and looking at the log up the hill now. Very good. Lovely. Lost his leg a little bit coming up that hill over the last element.
You know, the fun part, we told you in the round pen and everything else to look at the horse's expressions. Watch the horse's ears and eyes here. You see, everybody is thinking along the same line so that the horse can really start to solve that puzzle that we talked about earlier and in all of the other things that we did. Solving the puzzle. This is the same type of puzzle, though it's on terrain and it's a bank. It's still a puzzle, just like the one we did in the round pen. And Will, on a younger horse, a little too far forward.
Shorten his reins. His reins are a bit short.
And you see that by unwilling to let go of his reins, he can get into a lot of trouble about getting pulled into trouble. So again, now he's not in a place to communicate.
And the first thing you see is that nervousness in the horse's eye.
Exactly. Look at his expression.
A little excessive with the hands there, don't you think? Okay, it's getting better.
Very good. So those are the type of things that we want for this type of exercise. So let's go on to another exercise and see if we can apply the same things. So now we've got another exercise here. Remember on the show jump where we practiced direction and speed, this is going to have both of those elements in it. We're going to jump in over a larger fence and change the speed inside because the larger fence we want to come quite quickly to, and then slow up for a little bit of a combination that we have here, which is a roll top, 1 stride to a ditch, 2 strides to a little tiny narrow panel. Now that narrow panel becomes the test of what is your direction, what have we been working on for these past hours and hours and hours. The ditch we're going to forget for a moment. These horses are confident about ditches. When we take ditches and banks and water, it's about confidence. Does the horse understand what we want him to do? Does he understand what a ditch is? Does he not mind it? Once they don't mind it, it really becomes part of a gymnastic exercise.
And let's just address for a second here the fact that when you're practicing these types of exercises at home, there is no limit to what height or what width you start the process. We could practice the same exercise with poles on the ground and get the horse confident at that level before we start introducing the size and the width to them.
You know, funny enough, that's a great way to practice the start over ditches is just lay poles on the ground that are quite close to each other. And if they're quite close to each other, they make a mock ditch, and you can put that in between 2 or 3 fences and play with the strides in between. So practice your skills before you come out here and test them.
Let's try it.
All right, so we're going to come out here and have a little exercise where we're going to gallop at the first fence and then see if we can slow down for the second exercise.
Okay, David's going to pick up his pace now so that he gets a pretty good shot in at the first element. He's trying to simulate the idea of galloping across country. He's got a good speed. Now he's got to adjust. Let's see if he can adjust. There we go. There we go. Now he keeps his direction all the way through and up and over the very narrow element. Gosh, let's see if I can do it at least as well.
As Karen comes down, let's look for a direct change of speed. Direct, change the speed. Whoop, whoop. There, good, perfect. And the straight line, the direction. Those are the exercises that we're talking about. So everything applies from everything we've done right from the start. You do all the exercises we do in the show jumping, direction and speed. Can you hold a line? Can you change the speed? We're just applying it into a number of different situations. Obviously, we have a little ditch here and we have a little coffin. These horses are quite experienced. If we were going to do this type of exercise with a ditch, kind of a rails or ditch, and then a narrow panel, obviously we would start with the ditch quite small. We might even start in the show jumping ring with it.
Sure. We like always to start with the idea of doing it in a place in the show jumping where the rail can knock down when the horse makes a mistake or the rider makes a mistake. There is no huge problem with having the rail knocked down.
Anytime you do a bank or you do a ditch or you do a water, it's really about the horse's confidence and do they understand what you do. So sometimes in the show jumping, we put a series of rails together that kind of simulates something on the ground that they have to jump over. As soon as we have that, we graduate onto a small ditch, have them trot and canter over it. Then you're really doing gymnastic exercises. And the most cross country that we do are exercises like this more than going and galloping a bunch of big fences.
Really, at the end of the day, our job is simple. We have to keep it simple for the horse. And that takes a long time to perfect the techniques in order to keep it simple for the horse. So you can come around the corner to a complex combination like this and make it look simple for him. That's our job.
So maybe we'll grab our guys and we'll go over to the water and see if we can get some more exercises done.
Let's go do it.
All right, guys? So here we are at the water, and there's a bunch of exercises here, but again, we're going to practice the same thing. We're going to practice keeping our direction, we're going to be practicing keeping our speed, and now that we have this position going down using terrain, we're going to do it as we come up and down the bank. As we come into the water for the first time, we always try to kind of walk our horses in the water for the first time. So Clark, maybe you have a little walk in there. Everybody else has walked in there, and then Clark is going to go ahead and start with the exercises.
I think here it's really important. We've talked about position in the changes of terrain. Water does have an influence on horses, and so it clearly is going to show you, I hope, that the rider has to keep that speed the same all the way through. You might see horses that jump in over one element and then take a little spook before they jump into the water. We're going to try to get these riders to keep the speed exactly the same from the beginning to the end of the exercise.
The horses will react to the water, and what does the rider do about it? Do they encourage the horse? Do they try to maintain their direction of the speed? Do they keep things up? That's what we're looking for. Very, very good. Excellent. So now he's going to come and do a little half circle undo. Now, this is exactly how we introduce in the water exercises. Walk, jump up a bank, jump something before. What a great jump in.
Really good jump in. Now he's going to make a turn to the right, and he's going to jump in over this little coop. It's 2 strides, drop down into the water, 2 strides in the water, up, and 1 stride and over the vertical. Let's see if it can keep the speed the same and the direction. Oop, lost a bit of speed, got it back. And what was really great to watch in Clark's riding was when the horse reacted to dropping into the water, the horse lost a bit of speed. Within the next stride, he was back on the right speed and back in action, and that's a good piece of riding.
Yeah, he really reacted to the situation. So this is really kind of an accelerated way of us doing all of the exercises, but in the simplicity of it, in the water, jump up, then the coop, then we put a complex together. You see that Amy wasn't quite as aggressive there, that the horse changed to react, and she didn't move. She didn't say, come on, jump in there.
Let's see if she can turn the volume up a little bit here.
React there. React.
React again.
Yes.
Oh, and it makes all the difference. And when we talk about keeping it simple for the horse, that's exactly what we're talking about.
A lot of people talk about putting your leg on or doing something like that. We're talking about reaction. Your leg is what needs to react, yes, but we want to see the rider, when the horse change, says, go there.
This is Will on his green horse. Let's see if he can give him a confident ride. Oh, the horse looked just a little bit when it went into the water, and I would have liked to have seen Will slip his reins and let that horse use its neck as an advantage.
You see that Will, that time when he reacted, leaned forward instead of kicking him with his leg. Tell him to get in there. Tell him to get in there. All right.
Okay.
Not too bad for a young horse coming through for this first time.
What we'd like to see in the end is for that young horse to be able to look beyond what he's doing at the moment and solve the puzzle.
See, Heidi's now on a more experienced horse. She's not going to be probably as affected by the water. Go on. And Heidi, to me, is being too over-controlled. She needs to let the reins go and let the horse sort it out and get into the water. Let go of the reins more. Go on, go on. Don't try to hold him so. That's it. Let him see it. Let him see it. There.
There you
Good.
go. Well done.
Good reaction. See how much better that was that time, because she was much more positive than the time before where you tried to be over-controlled.
Very good ending there, Heidi.
Well, we want to thank you for sharing this time with us. We were really kind of excited to bring it to you, and we really hope that you enjoyed this three-part series talking about basic horsemanship, how do we communicate, and how do we apply it to a bunch of different things.
Got to see a little bit of the Virginia countryside and what a magnificent facility we get to train in. But over the years that we've been working with horses, we've had to be very creative in our training techniques to be able to bring the same kind of exercises to facilities that really don't have these beautiful water jumps and ditches and arenas and jumps. So you can do it too, you really can. And don't be timid to try all of these exercises that we've brought to you today.
Yeah, remember, out of everything, keep it simple so that the horse can understand what we want to do. We really want to thank State Line as our title sponsor here, and also Strongjid made by Pfizer and Legend made by Bayer for helping us put on this series. So we're going to close out here with our horses, doing a little exercises. Enjoy your time with your horses.
Good luck.